and that is a world of demons and fallen angels are one side and the supreme God on the other side. It just can't be. They saw that the word demonic was right in line and that they dared not cross over that line. This isn't really a problem because most people who are astute with semantics can pick up on what they're saying. It's so very important that these ladies and gentlemen have equated alien abduction to be a spiritual event. It can be compared to Copernicus stating that the earth orbits around the sun and not the other way around. It can be compared to Martin Luther nailing the copy of his 95 Theses to the door of the church in Wittenberg. Both of these acts challenge the established order of the time, and they cause people to think outside of the norm. Generally, those who administer the established norm do not appreciate nor do they accept those who operate outside the established norm. Both Luther and Copernicus suffered the wrath of the Catholic Church during their time of research and their subsequent publishing and research of that research. The authors have been classified as those who think outside the norm. We've experienced the lack of toleration from not only from the secular community, but many times from the Christian church. Although with time, some of the latter has been shown through divine revelation that we should be listened to, and our research needs to be re-examined. We've been able to expose people to our research through the internet. And we had some surprising contacts. There have been numerous letters and even phone calls received by us, calls by people who want to tell us that they knew that there was something unwholesome about the UFO alien abduction theme. They've told us that they just couldn't put their own finger on it, on what was wrong. But after reading the websites and finally lay hold of what it is, that the entities involved are demons or fallen angels. Every year, Jim Wilhelmsen and I, haven't for the last couple of years, but we sat at a booth down in Roswell Convention Center, and we hand out literature, and we tell people about what we found. While we always hope that the visitor to the booth will be someone who needs our help, we've discovered that the majority of those who visit us at the booth are people that know that there's something wrong with UFOs and alien abduction, but they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't pinpoint it. Many times people leave us with the rest of the piece of the puzzle firmly set into place. Many have told us that we are the answer to prayer and that they thank God right there and then. They say that for the confirmation that they needed to hear concerning what they've always believed. To say that our times at the booth are rewarding would be a gross understatement for sure. But we use the word because no other word adequately describes the feelings that we have at the end of each day there. And it's awesome. So yes, the secular people who have done the research and found the Alien Abduction Act as a spiritual connection have hit the nail right on the head, of course. They can be classified as a metamorphic component to the secular answer to the UFO, to the origin of UFOs and alien abduction perpetrators. Sometime in the future, probably very soon, all UFO and alien abduction researchers will come to the realization that the phenomena has a spiritual component, if they haven't already and denied it. When this happens, though, there will still be two contenders in the ring. There will be those who hold to the fact that these entities are fallen angels and demonic, and there will be those who adhere to the occult and New Age answer to the abduction question. And those things were examined in the next chapter. But so, folks, I hope you enjoyed me going through that chapter. It was a very important chapter in the book because, here I'll kind of illustrate to you what I'm talking about here. Like I said, back in 2008, Joe Jordan and I went down there, as did others, to attend a conference and to speak at a conference called The Missing Pieces of the Puzzle. That was put on by Joe Jordan, and he had a lot of guests there. He had Dennis Balthauser, he had Farah York-Dazoo, Karen Dolan, Richard Dolan, David Flynn, my friend David Flynn, Chuck Zukowski, Greg Bishop, and Paola Harris. Oh boy, is she a drink of water. Talk about somebody that hates. Jesus Christ. My goodness, she foams at the mouth when you talk about the Lord. But anyway, So we went to this conference down there, and we were the last speakers, and I never knew why until we got up there. So we presented this just like I presented it in the book as being something that a court case, so to speak. Actually, that was my idea. Most of the stuff that happened down when we talked was my idea. But I don't lay claim. It was the Lord that gave it to me, but He gave it to me, and so to Him be all the glory. But so what we presented wasn't very well liked. You could tell when we were speaking that we were ticking a lot of people off, and those are the people that were the supposed experts when it comes to UFO research. Most of the names that I mentioned in that, aside from David Flynn and possibly Farah, were people that were basically very ticked off at us. Let's see. So we presented our case, and my goodness, you could feel the tension there. It was like you could cut it with a butter knife. It was so thick, and but we just went on. You got to do what you got to do. If God tells you to do something, man, Yahweh tells you to go out and do it, you do it, no matter what people think. And you know what? Frankly, I didn't care what these people thought because I don't have to answer to them. I really don't care what they say about me. There were two different camps. We're the godly biblical camp as opposed to the ungodly secular camp. And boy, is there friction between the two. But anyway, so we did our talk, and we did it to where we were putting the aliens on trial. And this was part of the trial, was all the testimony. That's why I use the testimony a lot, the word testimony, and what I was saying before. So after that, we had a roundtable discussion that evening, or later that afternoon, excuse me. And the man who was the moderator at that, his name was Peter Robbins. And if you've been around the UFO community at all, you know the name Peter Robbins. And Peter didn't like us too much. He was very nice. He was very cordial, but it was cut with a lot of disapproval and hatred. But at the end of finally he asked a question of Joe and I, and it was basically he said, for every quote that you have from these people, I can produce 10 quotes that say otherwise. And I said, yeah, you probably could. I said, but you didn't produce the ones that I quoted. And I said, you weren't giving all the testimony. I said, now all the testimony is out there for people to figure out. They can look at both sides and they can figure out what they want to believe. He just looked dumbfounded. He just sat there for a minute and he goes, well, okay, and that was the end of my involvement there. And but it went from good to worse, depending on how you want to look at it. I saw it as a badge of honor. But toward the end of our stay there, because we stayed a couple days afterwards, we were informed. I'm sorry, I'm getting the sequence mixed up. This was a couple of months afterwards. We were informed of this. But what happened was right after we spoke and the conference was over, some of the people that I named in my list here, Richard Dolan, probably Dennis Balthauser, most probably Paola Harris with her rabid hatred for Christians, Greg Bishop, and I'm assuming Chuck Zukowski might have gone there too. I don't have a list, but judging from the way that we were treated, I can assume with all confidence that yes, they did go. But they spoke to the city council in Roswell. And the determination of their little meeting with the city fathers of Roswell, or mothers, if that might be the case too, was that but Joe Jordan and I were not welcome to speak in Roswell anymore. So you're going, well, why is that? Well, we presented the truth. And when a lie is the basis for an economic boom for a town once a year, where it rakes in a lot of coin. Roswell grows by 100%. I think there's like 45,000 people in Roswell, and it grows to about 120. My figures might be wrong, but I know it doubles in size. So you got all those people bringing in all that money. Well, if they find out that it's a ruse, it's not really extraterrestrial, but it's demonic, then they're not going to go there anymore. And so, of course, we upset the balance, and we upset the secular schmucks. Oh, I mean the secular people, because we told the truth, and liars hate the truth. And I'm not calling them deliberate liars. They believe a lie. Okay, when you believe a lie, you're a liar. But there's a difference between aggressive lying and innocent lying. And I do believe that a lot of them are innocent. Although one of the speakers there was heard to say, and he's quite well known, and it wasn't Peter Robbins. He was heard to say that, and I quote, "They're in my head and they won't leave me alone." So the secular people probably think that the aliens were speaking to him, but anybody that is involved in Christianity and or has worked in a psychiatric facility knows what's going on there. So anyway, and I'm not going to say the name, but he's very popular, and he's on every UFO thing you could possibly find on TV. But then we found out that his wife is a practicing witch, which was real interesting. So there's a plethora of color, spiritually speaking, within the research community, secular research community, where UFOs are concerned. And don't be surprised if you hear New Age stuff coming from them, which Mr. Dolan speaks all the time, and or satanic stuff coming, which basically is the same thing, but from any one of them, folks. So in the court case of the aliens versus the people with common sense who can look at all sides of things, and or Yeshua on that side too, they were found wanting. The aliens, like I said at the beginning, they never show up for court. They're liars. They used to say that they were from the planets in our solar system, but guess what, folks? When we started building spaceships to go to these other planets, all of a sudden they changed their address. Now they're from the Pleiades, or from Orion, or from Sirius. That area, those areas, places where we can't go and investigate and find that they're actually not there. So there's a big hint right there, right, as to what they really are. And and if you're more advanced than us, then why lie? Why tell deliberate lies? Why abduct people and put them through misery? I don't care if they were supposedly more advanced than we were, to where we were the ants and they're the humans or whatever. And I don't care about that. I have a good respect for ants. As long as they stay out of my house, I leave them alone, because they serve a purpose. And I don't go around abducting them and putting them through torture. So there's a sadistic element to alien abduction. But so folks, there's this is just one chapter out of Unholy Communion. And I think on the days when Kristen isn't going to be here, I'm just going to take a chapter out of the book until we get them all done. But so far we've gone through 2, and I think there's 20 chapters, so big book, over 500 pages. But if you really get interested, you can get through it really quick. Anyway, so like I said, when Kristen's not here, we'll go through the book. Times are short, folks, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. And there's many of us like me that believe that when all things go to hell, when the man of perdition comes and the world just starts turning sour, more sour than it is already, unfortunately. But when that starts to happen, that these entities are going to play a large part into it, folks. I wouldn't put it past them to land on the White House lawn and present the Antichrist to us as the savior of the world. I wouldn't put it past them one bit. There are other theories out there, some to where I agree and some to where I don't. One of them being that the reason for all these abductions is to obtain DNA samples from both men and women so they could make mindless drones with which the fallen angels, or excuse me,